That morphed into they then were known as Night by Night, but they only apparently played for 2 or 3 nights. Um,
That's good that they weren't
so
night by night by night, because then it would have been like
yeah,
a bar set too high. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy and John as usual, and it is time to get into a tune of John's selection for me to go off and check out. So, John, what do you have in store for us, buddy?
the band is called the Blue Nile.
Nope.
Fair enough. This song is called Tinseltown in the Rain, and it is a live version on Later with Jules Holland.
Oh,
Now, the visual quality to this video is not A1, more like about B3, but it sounds great as well, and it's nice. You get the impression of them live, so I'm sure
okay.
you'll enjoy it.
I'll curb my expectation when it comes to picture clarity. But excellent. Let me go off and give this thing a spin, and I will let you know what I've made of it.
Lovely band. We've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to move along. We're very fortunate because we got the Blue Nile. Now, we heard a little of their new LP, Peace at Last, but we asked them if they could do one that we all knew and loved as well. And so, I think from the LP, Walk Across the Rooftops, here they are with Tinseltown in the Rain. The Blue Nile!
I like that funky strum pattern.
Why did we ever come so far? I knew I'd seen it all before. Tall
Finger tapping
buildings
technique is
reach up in vain. Tinseltown is in the rain. I know now, love was so exciting. Tinseltown in the rain, oh men and women, here we are.
It's like the keys sound a little bit like strings here, unless there are strings somewhere that I'm missing, but I'm assuming that that's coming from some sort of string facsimile mechanism on the keys being played there, which is like kind of hit or miss for me because it sounds a little I don't know, I guess that same tone or technique is used in a lot of like first thing that comes to mind is kind of like like late 70s disco or dance music, which I'm not a huge fan of. So that part is a little bit for me, but I really do love the bass work and the guitar work that's going on here thus far. The singer's got this kind of adult contemporary kind of approach, which is neither for me like great nor is it like off-putting. It's just it is what it is. But yeah, so far so good.
Caught up in this big rhythm. One day this love will all blow over. Thank you for leaving the parade. Is there a place in this city? Oh,
I just love that guitar so much.
to always feel this way. And hey,
like that staccato bit.
Yes, I love you. Will we always be happy go lucky? Do I love you? Yes, I love you. But it's easy come and it's easy go. All this talking is only bravado.
Nice.
Oh, Tinseltown. Tinseltown in the rain. Oh, men and women. Here we are, caught up in this big rhythm. Tinseltown in the rain. Oh, men and women. Here we are, caught up in this big rhythm. Tinseltown is in the rain. 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 Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As he repeats the titular line, Tinseltown in the rain, I'm given time to kind of like think about that and what it might mean. And obviously for, I think most people, when they hear Tinseltown, they think of Los Angeles or, Hollywood. And one, I don't associate rain with LA very much. So it's just interesting to hear them describe it as being, in the rain, and just being caught up in the rhythm, which means it's, I don't know if that's like an allusion to this kind of pie in the sky mentality that everybody has when they go off to make it big, and you could just get caught up in all of that, and more often than not don't make it out. And I don't know if this is like a reflection on that. I don't even know if the Tinseltown that we're talking about is LA. I know that this is a British band, so it's interesting to hear them sing about that. Now I don't know if they spent enough time in LA for this to be biographical, and in that case literal, if it is about the Tinseltown or if it's about something else altogether. But there is sort of this I don't know, reflective tone to it, right? I don't know, maybe nostalgia, but there's just something about looking back or looking on to something kind of with a degree of separation, whether it's geographic or from a timetable standpoint, but it feels like they're looking back on this Tinseltown and reflecting or remembering. Either way, it's really interesting. I'd love to learn a bit more about like what exactly is at the crux of this, the meaning here in this song. There are aspects of this music that I absolutely love, and then there are others that just remind me a little too much of like, I don't know, like that smooth adult contemporary sound that is pulling from elements of other genres or subgenres that I'm not keen on. I think I mentioned it earlier, like there was some of that faux key work or faux string work on the keys is a little too akin to some of the stuff that I've heard in like disco or like older dance music, and I don't know. It just sounds at points it sounds a bit adult contemporary, but then there are other points where like I can focus on the bass work or what they're doing on the guitars and that fun rhythmic strum pattern, and it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, with all due respect to the song and those who enjoy it.
Do I love you? Yes, I love you. Will we always be happy-go-lucky? Do I love you? Yes, I love you. But it's easy come and it's easy go. All this talking is only bravado. Hey, Tinseltown is in the ring. Tinseltown is in the ring. Tinseltown is in the ring. Tinseltown is in the ring.
Thank you very much for Blue Nile, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, there we have it. That the little hair splitting that I was doing earlier, I still stand by that. But I you can't deny that this is a really great, succinct, tight performance. And to do it, I assume later is a live show and not taped before a live studio audience. I'm not really sure. I guess John can kind of clear that up. Regardless, all this is a really, really tight performance, and you got to give credit to everybody who made it happen. So kudos, and the applause that they earned at the end was deserved for sure. Again, my only drawback are there at moments I get these shades of like smooth adult contemporary that is like at times and brief fleeting times a bit milquetoast for me, but and that's just my I mean, other people might think that other stuff is kind of too plain for them and that this is perfect, and that's totally okay. That's the subjectivity of the interpretation or listening experience when it comes to music. But that I also don't want that to be the lingering, inference of my time listening to this track. There's plenty to like about it. I mean, odd playing technique aside, that bass work was actually really, really great. The drums, again, were smooth and succinct. They weren't doing anything crazy, but they were, everything was just timed perfectly there. Half of what was being done on the keys I really liked. I really liked the shots of the staccato punches, and that light chopping of the guitar with those that rhythmic strum pattern. His voice does have a little bit of that. Is it like Michael McDonald kind of? Again, it's a bit adult contemporary, not quite yacht rock because there's less like, I don't know, jazz or R&B elements in this. But it's something akin to that. But all that aside, good song, better performance of it, I thought, on Jules. And yeah, I enjoyed giving this thing a go. And I'd be interested to learn a bit more. This is, I believe, my first time giving this band a go, and the first time they featured on this channel. So I'm sure John has got some interesting information to sink our teeth into. So let's get back to him.
Hi, Chaparral, he's back. So you've had to listen to Tinseltown in the Rain, live on Later with Jules Holland by The Blue Nile. Please report your findings.
Well, some really attractive aspects to this song and some that I wasn't super keen on, but it was more hit than it was miss. So let me get into it. Will take from the introduction by Jules that this is a classic song by them. He sort of, had mentioned, they played something off their latest album, but they wanted to play this song that everyone else was quite familiar with and seemed to be a big fan of, and they went off into Tinseltown in the Rain. So after this introduction, the song kicks off with a nice, quick but funky swagger to it, with this quick, semi-muted kind of strums on the guitar, bouncy bass work. They do a lot of the lifting. The keys come in through here nicely as well, and the drums drop a simple but effective beat. And the singer joins, and has a bit of a crooning approach to his vocal delivery. And right out of the gate, he questions why they ever had come so far, and then observes tall buildings reaching up in vain and Tinseltown in the rain, before sharing this revelation of how love was so exciting. We then get treated to a fairly brief chorus, which begins with the titular line again before all the men and women were caught up in this big rhythm. He notes in the lyrics, and I wonder if this is a metaphor for something, or for like everyone aspiring to reach the same goal of fame and fortune that folks often think they'll attain when running off to a big city like Tinseltown. Although I thought it was kind of funny because the way they describe like this idea of rain is not something that I often associate with LA, which goes through droughts and a lack of precipitation more often than not. So it was just interesting that he keeps alluding to Tinseltown without any other clear, LA centric identifiers, other than maybe this idea of, people flocking to it or looking for something and getting caught up in the rhythm, which could be like getting caught up in the shared aspiration of so many people when they go off to find, like I said earlier, fame or fortune. So from here we are back into the verse, and after it, another treatment of the chorus, which is then followed by this really interesting bridge portion that kicks off with what sounds like staccato string work, I assume provided by the keys. It looks like, if I'm following the one guy's pattern on the keyboard, it seems to be mimicking this sound, or creating this facsimile of what sounds like strings. And there's this nice steady drum beat and more of that thick, playful sounding bass work. Although the playing style of the bass player is very interesting. It's almost finger tappy the way he's playing the bass throughout this, which I thought was kind of interesting and odd, but you can't really argue with what it sounds like, and it sounds great. So I was enjoying that. The singer continues on reiterating his love, I assume, for the city, acknowledging that it will always be happy-go-lucky, though it's easy come and easy go, and that all this talking is only bravado. And I have to admit that the last line kind of undercuts his commitment or sincerity in the that preceded it, which kind of made me chuckle a little bit. This gives way to a nice instrumental break with a lovely and lively strum pattern on the Telecaster by the lead singer, punctuated by those bright keys. And I have to be honest, though, these keys in this portion have more than just a touch of what I equate to the same sound that is often associated with the keys that you'll hear in like, and I don't think this sounded like this genre, but this tone and the keys reminds me of stuff you'd hear in like disco or dance music. in like the late 70s or early 80s, which I'm not a big fan of, if I'm being completely honest with you. We then get another round of chorus before our man then launches into several repetitions of the title and plenty of yeah, 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 yeahs. Then it's back into the bridge with more of those choppy, kind of like staccato string-like notes, and our singer again repeating the lyrics from earlier, affirming his love for the city. And after this final bridge, we go back into those choppy guitar strum patterns and bright keys that sound akin to violin soaring in that bright higher register as the singer repeats the titular line several times until the song and the performance comes to a nice, succinct ending, followed by a much earned round of applause from the audience. So there were some aspects of this tune that I really liked and others that weren't exactly my cup of tea. For starters, I really enjoyed that light, funky strum work on the guitars and this odd as his playing style was, bass work that was a lot of fun in this as well. And I really enjoyed the portion in the bridge when the string facsimile took on that, again, choppy staccato pattern. I suppose my hang up here is with this. It kind of just boils down to the strong vibe of like adult contemporary smoothness that I picked up on. And those moments when the keys went big and flew too close to the disco-like sun for my liking. And that's just a matter of personal taste. I'm sure there are folks out there who love those attributes to the song, and that's perfectly fine. But those to me are the cons of this tune that go along with those aforementioned pros that I listed earlier. As far as the performance goes, though, it was really well done. Everything was tight and flowed really nicely. And your man's got a great voice, especially for the kind of sound that they've crafted in this number. And remind me, Jules is live, right? It's not like it's taped before a live audience. It is a live, which only underscores how great and tight this performance really was. So please, John, tell me a bit more about these guys and this track and the album.
Thanks, for that, Andy. Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually, the Blue Nile, because they're not necessarily my cup of tea either. Although, and I didn't really listen to them when they came out. They became more popular with their later stuff. But when I listened to this album again, I love the deconstructed nature of it. Elements slide in and out through the songs, and this one is actually the one where it's most combined and whole. So, which kind of defeats what I'm trying to tell you. But this is famously one of their most favorite songs by a lot of people. So yeah, I'll get into it. Blue Nile were formed in Glasgow in 1981, and they are known as Sophistipop, synth pop and art rock. So I know if you cast your mind back, if you remember Prefab Sprouts, we had this song of theirs, which is their Sophistipop. So very, very clean and well done version of sort of pop, and they're along the same lines. Excuse me.
Mhm.
At the University of Glasgow, three friends, Paul Buchanan, Robert Bell, and Paul Moore, formed a band when they met there called McIntyre, which was named after the John McIntyre building, which was the university's admin block. That morphed into, they then were known as Night by Night, but they only apparently played for 2 or 3 nights.
That's good that they weren't
So-
night by night by night, because then it would have been like a bar set too high.
So other members of the band came and went, and finally the three decided to augment their sound. And they got themselves an old drum machine that only could play Hispanic American music rhythms. They renamed themselves the Blue Nile after the title of a 1962 book by Alan Moorhead. Never heard of it, never read it. And they raised enough money finally through gigging to release their first single, I Love This Life, on their own record label, Peppermint Records. They admitted at the time they had very limited musical ability, and so they adopted a more atmospheric electronic approach to their sound and cut their cloth accordingly. Their single was very limited in release, and but it come across the eye of a couple of people. And then in 1983, they were approached, apparently, so the story goes, they were approached by a local hi-fi manufacturer called Linn Products, Linn, and they were asked to produce a song which would showcase Linn equipment to the best effect. Linn were then so pleased with the resulting record that they offered the Blue Nile a contract to make a whole album, and they set up their own record label specifically to release it. However, in interviews, both Buchanan and Moore have categorically denied that Linn approached the band to make a record for them, or that the record company influenced the album sound in any way at all, with Moore saying, "It was a myth that we were a hi-fi band signed to a hi-fi company. We just got lucky that we found our way to an excellent engineer who knew the company." So that engineer was a chap called Callum Malcolm. And they'd already recorded some demos and stuff with him at his studio, Castle Sound, near Edinburgh. Malcolm was a friend of Linn's founder, Ivor Tiefenbrum, bless you, and had ties with the company. And his studio that he already had was fitted out with Linn equipment. So when Linn representatives were visiting one day and they asked to hear some music to display their new speakers, Malcolm played them a demo of Tinseltown in the Rain. They were so impressed that they offered the band a contract with the record label that they were already in the process of setting up.
Mm.
Despite the fact the group took 9 months to reply to Linn's offer, contract was eventually signed on the first album. A Walk Across the Rooftops was released on Linn Records, and the first album of that record label in May 1984. So the lineup at that time was Robert Bell, bass synthesizers, Paul Buchanan, vocals, guitar, synthesizers, and Paul Joseph Moore, keyboard synthesizers. An additional personnel for the album, the aforementioned Callum Malcolm, recording engineer, and Nigel Thomas, drums. On its release, A Walk Across the Rooftops gained widespread critical acclaim from music critics for its mixture of sparse, detailed electronic sounds and Buchanan's soulful vocals, later described as a fusion of chilly technology and a pitch of confessional romantic soul. The band's profile began to grow, although its existence remained precarious. Buchanan commented, "I've always found it strange that people miss the punk aspect of A Walk Across the Rooftops. We were living in a flat in Glasgow with no hot water. We barely knew what we were doing, and that was very liberating." So yeah, huge critical acclaim. Sound said their music cuts a deep swathe right through the centre of blonde-streaked wimperdom, without stance or circulation. For the first time in a long time, they make you care. Melody Maker proclaimed the Blue Nile's stunning debut album seduces the emotions as well as the senses, and instead of fighting its effect, the sensible thing to do is relax and enjoy it. There's a mesmeric quality in this music that makes you want to savour every track with a respectful appreciation of a connoisseur. Like a good book, you don't want it to end, but when it does, that thrilling potency loses nothing in repetition. And then it's been re-released over the years in retrospective reviews. AllMusic said the 7 lengthy tracks on A Walk Across the Rooftops all follow the model of the opener. Paul Buchanan's rich voice at the centre of near symphonic arrangements that manage to sound lush and incredibly austere at the same time. The tempos are deadly slow, with the most upbeat track, Tinseltown in the Rain, barely rising above a graceful saunter, and the inventive arrangements make extensive use of open space. I think that's what I kind of got from the album. There is a lot of space in the songs, and things just come in and out, as it were. And there's actually their limitations making this sound. But for me, listening to it, I thought it was just really interesting and inventive. BBC Music wrote that the album was still a landmark, still high, still somehow intangible. 1984's A Walk Across the Rooftops remains unique in its fusion of chilly technology and the pitch of the confessional romantic soul that alternative types were used to shy away from for fear it wasn't cool. In the years since, its peerless power to attract has accrued multiple layers of rueful resonance. In 1989, Record Mirror placed A Walk Across the Rooftops at number 74 in its critics' list of the best albums of the 1980s. The Guardian included A Walk Across the Rooftops in its 2007 feature 1000 Albums to Hear Before You Die, saying this stunning debut was an 80s high watermark. The arrangements meld electro and contemporary classical influences into a rich and satisfying yearningly whole. And the album was included in the book 1001 albums you must hear before supper time. And here it is. Not that one, this one. Oh, Blue Nile tops. There we go. On the same page, we have Hanoi Rocks. Jesus. Cyndi Lauper. Paul Simon, Hearts and Bones. That's a good one. That's a goodie. This way, Echo the Bunnyman, Porcupine. ZZ Top, Eliminator. And then the other page, the mighty Tom Waits, Sawfish Trombones, which is a humdinger. What a time to be alive. So, Tinseltown in the Rain was released as the second single from the album, and it was described as an ode to the city of Glasgow. The song reached number 87 in the UK singles charts. It was a bigger hit in the Netherlands, peaking at number 28, dizzying heights. And that was their highest charting of any chart in the world for any of their songs. In a 2013 interview with Dutch TV, Paul Buchanan stated that Tinseltown is a metaphor. It's whatever your dream is, whatever your Tinseltown was, whatever you lost. And I think in our minds, what was interesting to us was the kind of universal nature of cities. Glasgow's obviously not the same scale as New York, but if you just shrunk it down to a corner, it could be. It could be anywhere.
Wow.
Speaking about the song's legacy, Buchanan said, people stop you in the street and say, oh, Tinseltown, I love Tinseltown, it's lovely, it really is. But it's a bit like someone saying, you know, I really liked you 20 years ago when you were still good looking. It's quite funny. So, lyrics. Why did we ever come so far? I knew I'd seen it all before. Tall building reaching up in vain. Tinseltown is in the rain. I know now love was so exciting. Tinseltown in the rain. All women and men. Here we are, caught up in this big rhythm. One day this love will all blow over. Time for leaving the parade. Is there a place in this city, a place to always feel this way? And hey, there's a red car in the fountain. Tinseltown, the rain, all men and women, here we are, caught up in this big rhythm. Do I love you? Yes, I love you. Will we always be happy-go-lucky? Do I love you? Yes, I love you. But it's easy come and it's easy go. All this talking is only bravado. Little funk break. Oh, Tinseltown, Tinseltown is in the rain. Tinseltown in the rain, all men and women, here we are, caught up in this big rhythm. Tinseltown in the rain, all men and women, here we are, caught up in the big rhythm. Tinseltown is in the rain. 4 times. Yeah, 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 yeah. 4 times. Do I love you? Yes, I love you. Will we always be happy-go-lucky? Do I love you? Yes, I love you. But it's easy come and it's easy go. All this talking is only bravado. Yeah, 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 yeah. Tinseltown is in the rain. 4 more times. There's a great little interaction on one of the websites that does lyrics, and then contributors can put their little thoughts below. And they're usually absolute bollocks. But this one is lovely. It really, I think you'll enjoy this. So this very wise contributor wrote, this song is about the sexual potency of the city. The city is where the forces of reproductive power are most concentrated. This mirrors and metaphorizes the physical power of the city in terms of its centralization and concentration of executive capability. Power is an aphrodisiac. Those who seek to live and work there are attracted to and feed off that force. We must remember, however, that a song is more than its lyrics, and feelings of bitterness, sadness, and emptiness underlie the essential content in its musical form. The casual sex or one-night stands, the chasing for no other purpose than conquest, brackets power, and satisfaction of sexual desire are there to be felt in the notes themselves. Hence the leitmotif, spell wrong, of the rain. Tinseltown is in the rain, and the use of the repeat crescendo goes nowhere as people play their games. We say we love to excuse our base desires and instincts. The city is the locus of genetic forces at their most intense, the big rhythm. Live in London or Barcelona for a while and you will see. Watch the faces of those on the underground. It's all very sad, but the way of the world. Time to see it. Time to see it at last. ... And the response below is, wow, what an astonishingly pretentious idiot you are. It's all about Glasgow. The bands say that, and everybody who knows the band says that. The subject is the city. If you knew anything about Glasgow, you would know that it's easy to love and easy to leave. Oh, and it's always bloody raining.
I love how
Apparently
quickly and succinctly they cut through the bullshit.
And apparently, in one of the pubs, they did mention it. I didn't write it down, but there is a red car suspended from the ceiling, and he's talking about the car in the fountain. So that's yeah. Um, so the record label were very keen to rush out a follow up, but the band just didn't have any new material, and they spent 2 years in the studio, not busy, not writing. So matters were not helped when Virgin Records, to whom Lynn had licensed the band's records, began legal proceedings against the group and the label for not producing new material stipulated in the licensing agreements. After 2 years with almost nothing to show for their efforts, the band were forced to leave the studio and make way for another band, and they had to return to Glasgow. As soon as they got back to Glasgow, away the pressure of the studio, the group overcame writer's block and eventually returned to Castle Sound in 1988, a mere 4 years later, and were able to rapidly complete a new album. And this is the case throughout their career. Years, nothing, and then new album. So second album, Hats, was released in October 89 to rave reviews. Warmer and smoother sounding than the first album and exploring the highs and lows of romantic love. Hats peaked at number 12 in the UK albums chart. It was also the group's breakthrough record in the US, where it reached 108 on the US Billboard 200 in May 1990. I will say for me, Hats is probably the most beloved album of theirs. For me, it's not quite as interesting as this album. It's smoother and more polished and well done. And if you like that sound, you go for it. And it's the bits that are a bit odd in this that appeal to me. It's what you like, isn't it? So the radio play Game by Hats in the US brought the Blue Nile to the attention of several well-known US-based musicians. So in 1991, the band were invited to Los Angeles to work on songs by Julian Lennon, Robbie Robertson. I think there's a bit of Robbie Robertson in Paul Buchanan when he's singing. You can spot it. And Michael McDonald.
I mentioned Michael McDonald in my reaction. It's so funny that you mentioned, because I was like, he's not
Another great
quite Michael McDonald, but there's something there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, again, not all of this stuff is to my liking, but he's a fantastic singer as well.
Exactly. That's sort of my take too. Like I can't say he's not a good singer. It's just this style, not his style, the style that he fits into is just not something I typically gravitate toward, which is that adult contemporary, very smooth kind of approach, which is not, I like more emotive stuff and things like that. So it's all in what you like, really. You know what I mean?
There's some things you learn to like Warren G sampled his I Can't Believe I'm Not in Love Anymore. And because of Warren G, I love that song, which I probably would have done if Warren G hadn't existed. Exactly. But anyway, Regulator and all that shit. So yeah, as a result, Buchanan moved to Los Angeles and lived there for a while and had a relationship with the actress Rosanna Arquette between 1991 and 1993. So he got something out of it. Speaking about that period in his life, Buchanan said, it was really interesting. I have to say, it was all lived in earnest. So it was lived in all earnest. And there was much good there. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. The great thing all the time was you were constantly wanting to phone friends and say, guess who's in the shop? Guess who's in the supermarket? I'm not immune to all that. In the movies, celluloid's better than life, isn't it? It makes everything glossy. I don't mean it's better, but it's so glamorous. I met lots of people. It was fascinating. So the band also worked on Annie Lennox's first solo album, Diva. So after being let go by Virgin, the band, or rather Buchanan, without informing the other two, signed to Warner Brothers. Apparently they weren't in town at the time, so he made an executive decision. Fuck you that. In 1996, quick as a flash, their third album appeared. 7 years space. Peace at Last, which was released, it hit the number 13 spot in the UK and kind of got mixed reviews, saying it was decent but not as good as before, blah, blah, blah. The next album, again, was promptly out in 2004. So 8 years. Hi. During that recording of the album, old tension in the bands emerged. Paul Buchanan was actually ill for about 2 years of this sort of fatigue syndrome thing that he battled against. So when they finished it, the supporting tour was cancelled. As it was plain they weren't going to be in the same room together. And the band went into an extended hiatus, which remains to this day. So that's the end of it. Since they split, Paul Buchanan has released, because he's a workaholic, he's released one solo album in 2012 called Midair, which is a collection of really short, stripped-back songs, mostly with just his voice and a piano. It's very beautiful, actually. It is nice. But yeah, so they're quite chilled out in terms of we'll get it done sometime. But yeah, so it's a really interesting one because this isn't one of the ones which I go a bundle over, but I do really like this and appreciate it more than the sort of the other stuff which people probably like more. But this is the standout track probably of the album, but isn't the weirdest one. But anyway, so that's why I picked him.
Right on, right on.
So I'm glad. I'm glad you gave it a go. I could totally expect actually that kind of reaction from you. I thought it'd be pretty much the same. I suspect there's people on the channel will have the same reaction, and there'll be some that this will be a big hit for. There is a kind of fondness in memory for Blue Nile. I'm not saying people listen to their stuff every day, but there's it's and Hats especially has got a lot of followers for. But anyway, I'll wrap up. Thanks for listening, Sandy. Folks out there, please tell us what you think. If you like this, do hit the like button and drop your thoughts and comments below. We'd love to hear from you, what you think of this. Be really interested to see if there's some fans of the Blue Nile out there. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. And it all helps with us paying our rent. It does. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.